Hello, greetings. This is a continuation lesson where we are going to continue from where we ended, and we are going to start with vegetative propagation. Like you know, this is falling under what we get to call asexual reproduction. So this is falling under asexual reproduction. Even as we get to go deeper and breaking down this particular topic, I want you people to get and understand everything that I'm saying. The first thing that you need to get is to understand what vegetative propagation is. I've made this particular lesson public on all social media platforms so that if there are people that wants to join us, they are free to join us. Lessons get to be done privately, but this one I've made it public. Any person can access this particular video. I want people to join us if we've got people that are willing to join us in this remaining time. So whenever we are talking about vegetative propagation, you need to understand that you are talking about a type or a form of what? A form of asexual reproduction in plants. Where you get to have, so I'm going to say that where what? Where new plants, so I'm going to say that where new plants or individual plants are produced. New plants are what? New plants get to be produced from what? From this particular word we get to call vegetative. They get to be produced from where? From vegetative parts. Maybe someone is confused. What are these same parts that are called vegetative parts? Vegetative parts get to include roots. These can also include stems. These can also include leaves. So when we are talking about a type of a reproduction where new plants, or we talk of new individual plants, are produced from roots, stems, and leaves, it means that that particular process has got everything to do with asexual reproduction. And to be specific, this is what? Vegetative propagation. So I want you to understand this. You need to understand that we've got types of what? Types of vegetative propagation. So types of what? Vegetative propagation. We've got types of vegetative propagation. So these types are just two. There is what we get to call natural. So there is what is called natural vegetative propagation. There is also what is known as artificial. So there is also what is known as what? Artificial. There is something that is known as what? Known as artificial vegetative propagation. These are the two types that we are going to measure in so much. And even as I break them down, I want you to understand, more especially those of you that are already under my lessons. I want you to be writing down everything that I'm teaching here, because questions get to come in an exam under this particular part. So you just need to make sure that you are able to follow me clearly and attentively. I will start with the first one, which is called what? Which is called natural. So it is called natural propagation. Vegetative propagation, I'll just say, I'll write it like this due to space, but you are supposed to write it in full. We get to have certain parts that get to fall under natural vegetative propagation. We get to have the first thing that I want us to start with. That is what we get to call stem cutting. So stem cutting, it's a natural vegetative propagation. You discover that under this part, we get to have a section. You discover that a section of what? A section of stems, or we can call them what? Or we can call them roots, are cut. These ones get to be cut and planted So you cut them and you get to plant them so that they can grow into what? Into new ones. So they can grow what? They can grow new ones. So this is what we get to call cutting. Examples of such plants, we get to have some rose cutting. So there is what we get to call rose cutting. You discover that you can cut their stem or maybe part of their roots. You plant them somewhere, you discover that a plant of the same kind will still regeminate, or it will still grow. So this is the first one. It is called cutting. Gets to fall under what? Natural vegetative propagation. There is also another one. So I guess we are following each other so far. You are not behind. So all these things, I want you to get them. This is how I teaching like this, so that you get these concepts so well. The second one is called layering. This is called layering. What do we mean when we say layering? You discover that we get to talk of what? A stem is bent. A stem is what? Bent. And you discover that it to the what? Bent to the ground. So bent to the what? To the ground. And this one gets to be covered. And what? And covered with what? Covered with soil. So bent to the ground and covered with what? Covered with soil. Once it is covered with soil, there is a topic called germination. I guess you've understood that particular topic. It is not connected to this, but I just want to connect it somewhere. You discover that a process by which a seed embryo gets to be developed from a seedling. Under specific conditions, you get to have a suitable temperature, moisture, all those things get to be there. Oxygen, sunlight, all those things get to be there. So you discover that some shoots will begin to develop and the roots will start germinating. One gets to develop into the primary and the other one into the radical system. This is what gets to, this is just away from this particular topic. So under this one, you discover that after some time, you are going to observe that roots are going to do what? You will observe this, that roots will begin to do what? You are going to observe that roots now develops. The roots will do what? The roots now develops while attached. While it is what? While it is attached to the parent. While it is attached to the what? To the parent. So this is the process all about. I believe you are able to get me clearly and attentively. I just want your attention because these are some things that you need to know. Let us move now to the second one. The second one is what we get to call bulbs. This one gets to fall under this one that is here. We are calling it what? Natural vegetative propagation. What do we mean by this? You discover that there is what we get to call underground what? Underground storage organs. Underground storage organs. Storage organs. Some plants that gets to undergo this particular process or this thing we are calling bulbs, you discover that we talk of onion. Onion, we talk of what? We talk of onion. Just one onion. You plant that one thing, you discover onion. I guess the good part is that I'm not dealing with something that you've never seen before. I'm just trying to make you realize what you already know. So no one can tell me that I've never seen how onion gets to grow. Just one onion, the one that is like this. You discover that down there, another one will start like this, another one like that. Have you seen? So you discover that onion is able to do that. That is another thing. And you are also going to observe one thing is that underground storage organs like onion gets to develop new plants. So underground storage organs such as onions, these ones get to do what? You observe that they get to develop what? They develop into new plants. They develop into what? They develop into new plants. So this is what gets to happen. I believe we are together up to here. There is also another part that gets to undergo natural vegetative propagation. There is what we get to call rhizomes. So rhizomes, I guess I gave you some diagrams on this particular part. So this is something that you already know. So you discover that the horizontal underground stems get to produce what? New shoots like ginger. So this is something that you already know. So we get to talk of what? We get to talk of horizontal. So I'm going to say that horizontal what? Horizontal underground. So say horizontal what? Horizontal underground stems. Horizontal underground stems get to do what? Get to produce. So say these ones get to produce new shoots. They are going to produce new shoots. These things get to produce new shoots. We can talk of what? Ginger is one of them that gets to fall under rhizomes. So this is a topic that is so good. This is a topic that you really need to enjoy, even as you get to answer such questions in an exam. I'm not teaching you how to master these things. I'm teaching you so that you get to know all these things that I'm explaining here. The last one that we are going to talk of is what we get to call suckers. So suckers also gets to undergo what? Natural vegetative propagation. What do I mean by suckers? You discover that new shoots, we talk of new what? We talk of new shoots that arise. These ones get to arise from where? From base. They arise from base to produce what? I'll say once they get to arise from the base, a new plant gets to form, and you discover that these new shoots that gets to arise from the parent cell, they get to stand, and this one that is formed gets to develop, and it also produces another friend. This friend produces another friend. You discover that by the end of 10 years, you discover that you get to have a plant of bananas. So this is just one of them. So new shoots that arise from a base of the what? Base of the plant. To be specific, we get to talk of what? A parent plant, e.g. banana. So banana, you just get one, but you discover that a lot of bananas, banana plants will be there. So this is it. All these things that I've talked about here gets to fall under this part that I'm calling natural vegetative propagation. So you need to understand this. Even as you get to prepare for your exams, you need to make sure that, okay, I know something about this. I know that when I'm talking about vegetative propagation, I'm talking about a form of asexual reproduction where new plants are produced from vegetative parts. Or you can say, instead of using this word that vegetative parts, you can just say this is a form of asexual reproduction where new plants are produced from stems, roots, and leaves, etc. So you can put it like that if you don't want to use this word vegetative, if you don't want to repeat that a particular word. So this is something that is good and interesting. We proceed and move to another type of vegetative propagation. This one is what we get to call artificial. I even noted there So we get to call it what? We get to call this one as artificial. So it is called artificial what? Vegetative propagation. Write in full. You are not supposed to write like this because you end up confusing yourself. What is VP? So you write in full. Vegetative propagation. What is artificial vegetative propagation? Now, when we are talking about artificial, these ones we can say these are what? Man-made vegetations or man-made vegetative propagations. So man-made, it is man that makes sure that this type of reproduction gets to occur. When we talk of natural, those ones get to occur naturally without any help of any person. As long as you just put like that, these things get to be there. So the first one that gets to fall under artificial vegetative propagation, there is what we get to call grafting. So there is what is called what? Grafting. What is grafting? So when we are talking about grafting, you have to understand that this is just the joining. We get to talk of what? We get to talk of joining parts. You get to join parts of what? Parts of two plants. This is where you get to join parts of two plants together. So you join them together. The parts of two plants, you join them together so that they can grow as one. So why are you joining them? So they do what? So they grow as one. So they grow as what? As one. This is it. The reason why we get to join them, they can grow as one. You discover that some people get a mango tree and let me say mango and a guava, just an example. So when these are grafted together, you discover that one tree will have fruits of bananas, mangoes and guavas. So if we bring these two, so that is what we get to call what? Grafting. Then there is also another form, and you discover that mostly when we are talking about grafting, this gets to occur in what? In fruit trees. So we mostly get to do some grafting in what? Fruit trees. We proceed and move to the next one. The next one is what we get to call, this one we get to call it as a tissue culture. There is what is called the tissue culture. You ask yourself, what is this same tissue culture? So you discover that this is the growing of plant cells in a nutrient medium to produce new plants. So this is what we get to call what? Tissue culture. So if I ask you what is tissue culture, this is the what? This is the growing. So you say, okay, this is the growing what? Growing plant cells. So growing plant cells in a what? In a nutrient. So in a nutrient medium. In a nutrient what? Nutrient medium. Nutrient what? Nutrient a medium to produce new ones. So to do what? To produce new plants. So that we can produce new what? New plants. So this is what we get to call a tissue culture. This is just like that, as simple as that. So all these things that I've talked about here, tissue culture, you discover that here it allows for mass production and disease-free plants. This is a good part of a tissue culture. It does what? This one gets to allow some mass production and disease-free plants. So if you were to be told, what are some of the importance of tissue culture? You tell them to say, okay, tissue culture is one of the artificial vegetative propagations where man gets to help in reproduction between plants. So this one, you discover that growing plant cells in a nutrient medium to produce new ones. Why is it done like this? So that it can allow or give room for mass production and disease-free plants. This is all that you need to understand just under these two parts. This is something that is so simple, and I know you can't fail to understand all these things that I'm teaching here. This is one of the simplest topics that you can ever find in an exam. So I guess you are following me and you're able to get everything that I'm teaching here. We look at now the advantages of this propagation. So we look at what advantages. What are some of the advantages that you need to understand? The good part, isn't it? So you discover that there is what? There is rapid. We get to talk of rapid production of new plants. Rapid production of new plants. So these are the advantages of vegetative propagation. There is rapid production of new plants. You also need to understand that here there is also what? There is also this one gets to maintains. So you discover that it maintains what? This one maintains desirable. So I'm going to say it maintains desirable traits. Maintains desirable traits of parent cells or parent plants. So parent plants. Aside this, we can also look at the other one where we get to say that this one is useful for plants. So we say, okay, one of them is that it is useful for what? It is useful for plants. This one, it is useful for plants that do not what? That do not produce seeds. That do not do what? That do not produce seeds. It is so important. So that do not produce what? Seeds. There is no need of you saying, okay, I need the seed for this so that I can have this like this. No, it is going to help you. So what are now some of the disadvantages? Where we've got advantages, we know that we've got what? Disadvantages. This thing is known. If we have disadvantages, there must be advantages. So even a person, in as much as you get to be good, there are also the bad sides of you, which are the disadvantages. So that's why we say no one is perfect. Everyone gets to have certain weaknesses in one way or the other. So what are now the advantages? We've looked at these wonderful advantages. Now we go to the disadvantages. Demerits. Now, one, you discover that there is what? There is lack of, so I'm going to say lack of what? Genetic diversity. Lack of genetic what? Diversity. So lack of genetic diversity can lead to what? Can lead to, so because of lacking genetic diversity, we discover that this one gets to lead to what we get to call as a susceptibility to what? To diseases. So meaning there is an increased rate of what? Diseases. You also need to understand that these ones, when we talk of over-reliance on a single parent cell, can be risky. So when we talk of over what? Just relying on a parent cell can be very risky. So over-reliance on a what? On a parent, or I would say on a single parent. On a single parent can be what? Single parent plant. Single parent what? Parent plant can be what? Can be, so I'll say can be what? Can be risky. This one can be what? Can be risky. So this lesson was just on vegetative propagation. The next thing we are starting is falling under we look at reproduction in flowering plants. This is our next topic. This one won't be public like this one, but only people that are under my academy will access that particular lesson. So if you are such a one, you want to improve your grade in biology, you want to get that distinction, I'm here to help you. So you can WhatsApp me on this particular number. This is my WhatsApp number. This is +2609710667447. This is my number. Let me help you get that distinction that you want to get in an easy way. And please, I want you to follow me on all social media platforms, especially on these ones that you are using to watch this video. And I've got a WhatsApp channel. You can also follow my WhatsApp channel. Just go there on WhatsApp, you follow me. This is the name, so that you get to be seeing all the updates. So this is the name of my WhatsApp channel, and all social media platforms gets to have this same name, Harrison J. Zulu Tutor. So when you see one of our posts, please don't pass without putting a like or a comment to the post. Together we grow, together we achieve greater things together. So this is where we end from. This video was done public so that even our audience can try to benefit. But most of my lessons are private. So if you are interested in joining me, joining my academy, this is the number you need to text on WhatsApp. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I get to use this same name, Harrison J. Zulu Tutor. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Those of you that are my students, I guess you are writing down these things, and I'll share an exercise in the group. I see how you are going to answer it, and I check your understanding on these particular things if you are able to answer exam questions. Thank you so much.